Let's start in the spring. It starts in my forest where I live with the milkmaid. You'll see these little green leaves start to form, and they have a certain shape. And I've learned to recognize just those little teeny leaves. And then after that, the fairy bells come, and then it gets these little bell flowers that hang down. And from that comes berries. Fat Solomon seal has big fat leaves, and then at the top comes out this beautiful white flower that smells like roses. Well, there's the wild rose, the California rose, and they are sort of finishing their blooming right now. And they have these little teeny thorns that are very sharp. A lot of the flowers come and go very quickly. The Solomon seal stays for quite some time. The ginger has a flower on it, and it's kind of a brownish color. Redwood violets grow in a mat low to the ground, and they come out about the same time as the yerba de selva, which puts out a ground cover, and it can grow in the shade and the sun, whereas things like trillium really don't like intense sun. And about the same time as the redwood violet, the redwood sorrel begins to bloom too. A lot of the things like the redwood violets were blooming, and now they're not blooming much. And so we're starting to go out of the phase of the flowers coming out, but a lot of the flowers now are going to seed. We have Clintonia still in bloom, and they're a pink flower. And in our forest, they don't get very big. They're kind of nondescript little flower, but they get these bright blue berries on them. And we have a kind of a heuchera called Hookura Micrantha. They're in full bloom right now, and they're so beautiful. But when they're all together, they just form this billowy, delicate flower that dances in the wind. It's just really lovely. The thing that I notice about the wildflowers most is when they appear. They're like birds. Birds have a certain place that they live in the story of the trees. Some live way up high, some live down low, and some are mostly hopping around on the ground. And these flowers are like that. They all have their time and their place. Different flowers and different plants also provide homes for different creatures too, or food. We have the Polypodia, which come out in the wintertime, which is unusual, and they're beautiful in the rain. And then we have five-fingered ferns, which are very lacy and like more shade. Bracken ferns can take quite a bit of sun. We have the sword fern, which is a tough fern, and the giant chain fern, which is beautiful. Giant chain fern likes to be where it's moist. Mushrooms are fascinating, and they come at different times. When it rains, there's going to be mushrooms. There's chanterelles, and there's morels, and there's all kinds. But I love the way they grow, that they come up and they grow and they disappear, and they don't hang around a real long time. Honey mushrooms will grow in a big, huge clump, which is fun to see. And then there's lots of little brown ones and little white ones. I like watching all the relationships between the plants. If I'm taking a walk and there's a plant, then I'll stop and spend some time looking at it and checking it out. I love watching the mosses and how green they turn and how quickly they turn green. So I really like watching them. I sit down sometimes with a purpose of just seeing what happens, because you never know what's going to happen. Surprising things happen just by sitting there being quiet. I was thinking about the flowers the other day. They know when it's their time to bloom. That's such an intelligence. That's such an amazing thing. How every year the trillium comes at the exact same time, or close to it, and each thing follows in succession from the next thing, and they all have their time.